Hey guys, tonight we begin somewhere quiet. A little cafe you stumble upon while wandering aimlessly through a sleepy town blanketed in drizzle. You didn't plan to be here. In fact, you probably wouldn't make it down this cobbled street unless your feet were chasing something they couldn't name. But here it is, a window aglow with golden light, soft jazz notes leaking through the cracks, and a sign too faded to read. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake with me, I'd love to know, where are you listening from? And what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The cafe door jingles softly behind you, not an attention-seeking sound, but one that merely announces, you're here. Take your time. It's warmer inside, not because of the heating, but because it smells like cinnamon, old wood, and 1,000 slow conversations soaked into the walls. You exhale and realize you've been holding your breath since somewhere 3 blocks ago. Maybe longer. You find the window seat. It's fogged, just enough to blur the world outside into a watercolor. Cars drift by in slow motion. Pedestrians pass, huddled in coats and thoughts. You tap a finger on the glass, drawing a tiny heart, only to watch it melt away seconds later. Funny how fleeting things can be, even when you leave a mark. A server passes without speaking. Just a glance, a nod, and a cup placed in front of you. No menu, no rush. It's not that kind of place. You didn't order, but the tea arrives anyway, like the cafe already knew you were coming. It tastes faintly of orange peel and something herbal you can't name. Warm, grounding, like drinking a moment of quiet. Outside, the rain continues to fall, not violently, just with the persistence of someone humming a lullaby they've always known. Each droplet slides down the window with unhurried grace, a soft reminder that not everything needs to arrive quickly. Some things are most beautiful when they take their time. You lean back, letting your eyes wander. The shelves are cluttered with old books, forgotten trinkets, and mismatched teacups. A cat sleeps under the bookshelf, paws curled like quotation marks around a story it isn't telling. Above, a string of lights twinkles, not bright, not bold, just enough. The kind of lighting that lets your thoughts feel welcome. Some say places like this don't exist anymore, that we've paved over patience, digitized intimacy, and replaced reflection with reaction. But maybe they still exist in the corners we don't think to look. Maybe they find you when you stop trying to find anything at all. The table in front of you holds a sugar jar and a tiny spoon. You stir, even though the tea doesn't need it. The swirl inside the cup is hypnotic, a tiny storm contained in porcelain. And you wonder, how many storms have passed through this cafe? How many quiet hearts sat right where you are, hoping the world would hush for just a little while? There's a small notebook tucked beside the sugar jar. Its cover is worn, its pages filled with gentle scrawlings, messages from strangers who once sat here. You flip through slowly. Breathe. It's not too late. My grandmother used to say, the longer it simmers, the better it tastes. Maybe that's true for love, too. I came here angry, left here whole. You smile, not because you know these people, but because somehow, you do. There's comfort in that anonymity, in shared silences, passed down like old recipes with smudged ink. And in this moment, you realize, patience isn't just waiting. It's choosing not to rush when you could. It's letting something unfold without forcing it open. Like a bud deciding when to bloom. Not because the world demands it, but because the light finally feels right. The chair creaks softly as you shift. The hum of the cafe wraps around you. It's like sitting in a memory that isn't yours but welcomes you anyway. And outside, the rain, still falling, becomes background music to the stillness inside. You think about all the times you've hurried, to finish, to fix, to understand. All the corners you've cut to get somewhere you weren't even sure you wanted to be. And now, here you are, in a quiet cafe with no expectations, no timelines, no alerts buzzing in your pocket. Just you, a warm cup, and a window blurring the edges of everything that used to feel urgent. You feel your shoulders soften. That invisible weight of needing to be somewhere else, someone else, starts to melt. And in its place, a thought as light as steam rising from your tea. What if you didn't need to rush back? What if this moment was enough? Somewhere deep inside, something sighs, a gentle uncoiling, like a knot loosening after years of holding tight. And you understand, if only just now, that stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the presence of peace. You rest your hands on the table. You watch the cat twitch in its sleep. You let the silence grow without trying to fill it. And the cafe, this little refuge from time, holds space for it all. The barista doesn't say much the next time she passes your table, just a quiet glance. Like a breeze that notices you without needing to stir the air too much. Her hair is tucked loosely under a knit cap, and her apron looks older than the wooden beams that hold this cafe up. She moves like someone who isn't late for anything. You watch as she carefully wipes down a counter that isn't dirty, adjusts a crooked painting only slightly, then returns to polishing a row of cups that already shine. Every motion has the grace of repetition, like a dance she's done 1,000 times. Not out of obligation, but out of a quiet kind of care. The kind of care that says, I'm here, you're seen, take your time. She eventually makes her way over again, placing a small biscuit on your saucer. No words, no charge, just a subtle nod, and she disappears into the rhythm of the place. You break the biscuit in half, watching the crumbs scatter like soft confetti, and it reminds you of something your grandmother used to do, offering something small and warm to fill the space between heavy silences. Not to fix anything, just to be there. A gesture, a presence, like saying, I'm listening. Without speaking, you find yourself wondering how long the barista has been here. Years? Decades? Or maybe just yesterday. And this place has a way of aging people into comfort. You imagine her life, though you know none of it. What kind of mornings she wakes to. What she whispers into her own tea before the doors open. Maybe something like, let today be soft. Maybe something like nothing at all. There's a mirror behind the bar, and you catch your reflection. You don't look tired. Exactly. Just softened, like dough that's been kneaded long enough to yield. You blink at yourself, as if asking silently, when was the last time I allowed myself to be this still? You remember days when everything felt like a sprint. Even your coffee had to be fast, ordered through apps. Gulped between deadlines. Eye contact became a luxury. Smiles felt expensive. You were efficient, yes, but at what cost? Here, the barista teaches you something without teaching it at all. Presence isn't about saying the right thing. It's about standing still when the world leans too hard. It's about brewing comfort slowly, pouring it without spilling, and leaving people better than you found them, even if they never know your name. Maybe that's why she says nothing. Because in a place where time holds its breath, words aren't the only way to be heard. You finish your tea, or at least you think you do. The warmth lingers, even after the cup is empty. You trace the rim absent-mindedly with your finger and feel the slight bump, a tiny chip no one bothered to replace. It doesn't ruin the cup. In fact, it gives it character, like it's lived through something and still holds warmth. The barista walks past again, carrying a pot of fresh tea to another table. You notice how she kneels ever so slightly to pour it, honoring not just the cup, but the person receiving it. There's a grace to her posture, one that says, this is sacred. 2. Even this simple thing. Some say kindness should be louder, that we need grand gestures and heroic acts to believe in goodness. But maybe the smallest kindnesses are the most profound. Precisely because they're invisible. Maybe the true heroes are the ones who wait, who refill, who listen by simply being there. You glance around. Other patrons are wrapped in their own little moments. A couple murmurs over a crossword puzzle. An older man reads a dog-eared book, turning pages like he's afraid to wake them. No one is in a rush. Even the rain outside seems to have taken a breath, falling gentler now, as if the cafe taught it something. 2. You think about patience, not as a virtue, but as a form of trust. Trusting that things will unfold when they're ready. Trusting that silence isn't emptiness, but a cradle for something deeper. Trusting that you don't always have to do, sometimes you just have to be. You imagine asking the barista her name. You imagine her smiling but not answering. just offering you a fresh cup of tea instead. Some things, after all, don't need names to be real. There's a tiny chalkboard near the counter with the words, "Some days, love sounds like." Take your time. You read it once, then again, and it stays with you longer than you expect. You wonder how many people have walked in here needing exactly that: space, slowness, silence, and how many walked out carrying something they couldn't quite describe, but felt softer because of it. What if the world had more cafes like this? Not just with tea and biscuits, but with people like the barista, keepers of stillness, protectors of peace, people who understood that sometimes the best way to speak is by not hurrying your presence. You lean back once more, looking out the window. A bird hops across the cobblestones. Indifferent to the rain, a child tugs their parent's hand and laughs at something you can't hear. Life continues, as it always does, but for now, you remain here, in this bubble of warm air and quiet patience. And the barista, still gliding behind the counter, hands gentle, heart unspoken, continues teaching the art of waiting without ever needing to say so. There's a clock above the counter. You only notice it now, though it's been there since the beginning, an old brass thing. Tarnished with time, its face faded like the spine of a well-read book. You look closer and realize it has no hands, no ticking, no quiet click to push the moment forward. Just stillness. At first, it feels like a mistake, like someone forgot to fix it, or chose not to. But the more you sit with it, the more it feels like a choice. A gentle rebellion against everything that rushes. A silent invitation to stay a while, or forever. You sip from your new cup. This one hints of jasmine. Soft and floral, like a memory you're not sure is yours, and stare at that handless clock, wondering how it keeps so much presence while telling no time at all. You chuckle quietly. If a clock can stop chasing time and still be welcome on the wall, maybe so can you. Across the cafe, a small group sits at a round table. They aren't talking much, just passing a notebook between them. One person writing, another reading, a third simply watching the steam rise from their cup. No phones, no urgency. They're not documenting anything for the world to see. It feels private, sacred, even. You imagine what they're writing. A poem, maybe, or just single words like hope or breathe. You consider walking over, asking to join, but then the moment passes. Like a whisper you choose not to chase. Sometimes, you realize, connection is felt even from across the room. Like the quiet companionship of constellations, distant, yet tethered in some invisible way. You look back at the clock and imagine it used to tell time. Once, you wonder if it stopped one day and no one noticed, or if someone noticed, and decided that was the moment to let go of the ticking. You picture the cafe owner, standing on a stool, gently removing the hands and setting them in a drawer somewhere, whispering, "There, now we listen instead." You lean into the thought, what if our lives had seasons like that? Chapters where we gently removed the hands of urgency and said, "This moment doesn't need measuring. It just needs feeling." What if you gave yourself permission not to keep up, but to sit still and notice? A little bell above the door chimes, someone entering. A woman in a long coat, rain caught in her curls, glances around like she's searching for a place that will recognize her soul. The barista greets her with that same silent warmth and points to the clock. The woman nods as if she understands. And maybe she does. Maybe she's been here before. Or maybe people who need this place always recognize it. The way thirsty roots know when they've hit water. You look at the clock again. It's still not moving, still not insisting. And for the first time in a long while, neither are you. You think about how you measure your days, by deadlines, appointments, messages, minutes, your calendar full, your head fuller. But here, the clock asks you to measure time not in ticks or tasks, but in sips, in soft exhales, in the way your shoulders slowly sink away from your ears. And maybe, just maybe, in how long you can sit with yourself without needing distraction. The table beside you has a little potted plant. Its leaves are waxy and green, tipped with a soft red that looks like they've been kissed by dusk. You notice a tiny paper tag tied to the pot with string, written in faded ink. Even plants grow better when no one is watching. You smile, because somehow, the message was meant for you. Growth doesn't always look like movement. It doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just staying in one place long enough to let your roots sink in. Sometimes it's letting your leaves stretch slowly toward the light, even if no one claps when you do. And in that moment, a quiet truth rises inside you. Patience isn't passive. It's a kind of faith, a kind of love, the kind that trusts that unfolding takes time. That beauty often begins in the places we forget to look, like chipped teacups, silent clocks, and conversations without words. You imagine a world where every cafe has a clock like this, where time is honored, not hunted, where people sit longer than they need to, just because the moment deserves it. A world where people aren't always trying to get somewhere, but are learning to be somewhere, fully, kindly, presently. You trace the rim of your cup again and look out the window. The rain has lightened to a mist, more memory than weather now. The street glows with wet reflections, lamplight smeared like oil paint across cobblestone. There's a soft clink from the counter. The barista is lighting a candle next to the pastries. Even though the lights are already on, it doesn't brighten the room much. It's not meant to. It's just an offering. Like the clock, like the tea, like this entire place. A quiet reminder that some things glow best when they aren't trying to shine. You return your gaze to the clock. Still silent, still perfect. And for the first time in what feels like years, you realize you're not late for anything. You gently swirl the last of your tea in its cup, watching the amber remnants curl and shift like the tail end of a dream. The movement is slow, tender, like a lullaby with no words. There's something meditative in it, like tracing your finger through dust on a windowsill. Not to clean it, but to feel time. Somewhere behind you, the sound of silverware softly meeting porcelain is followed by a chuckle, low and quiet, like a ripple over still water. You don't turn around. You don't need to. It's enough just to know joy is happening close by. The kind that doesn't need to be shared to be real. The candle the barista lit flickers faintly on the counter, its flame bending and bouncing as if nodding along to a song you can't hear. You wonder what would happen if you stared into that little flame long enough. Would it tell you something? Whisper a truth you've forgotten? Or simply warm your silence with its own? There's an elderly man a few tables away, writing slowly in a leather-bound journal. His hand trembles slightly as he moves the pen, but the words still come. Every so often, he stops and stares into space, as if listening to something very old inside him. A memory, perhaps, or a lesson life has been repeating until he finally decided to write it down. You watch him for a while, wondering what he's writing. A letter never meant to be sent? A poem only he will ever read? Maybe it's a list of things he's learned, not the grand ones, but the soft ones. How to forgive without being asked. How to stay gentle in a sharp world. How to lose things gracefully. And suddenly you feel something well up inside you, not sadness. Not quite. Something gentler, like a longing for something you can't name. A wish that, one day, your own quiet thoughts might be worth putting on paper. 2. You return your gaze to the chipped rim of your cup. It's funny how imperfections hold your attention longer than perfection ever could. You wonder why we chase polished lives when it's the cracks that make us pause, that give us texture, that let the light in. There's a small bookshelf near the cafe entrance, half poetry, half old cookbooks, a few with spines so cracked they've begun to curl. You wander over and let your fingers skim the edges, not to choose, but to notice. A book with no cover draws your attention. You open it and find a page marked with a pressed flower, dry, delicate, like it's holding its breath. You read a single line out loud, whispering so only you and maybe the flower can hear. We are all slow miracles, learning to bloom at our own pace. You close the book carefully, returning it exactly where it was, as if you've placed a secret back into the hands of the universe. There's a lesson in all of this. Though it doesn't shout, it just waits, like a warm coat hanging by the door. You can put it on when you're ready. And maybe that's what this cafe does best. It doesn't teach. It reminds you how to notice, how to stay, how to breathe without checking your watch. You imagine a life where you carry this stillness with you, not as an escape, but as a presence, like a small bell in your chest that chimes gently when the world rushes in, reminding you, you don't need to move just because everything else is. Some say stillness is the absence of motion. But maybe stillness is what you find when you've moved far enough to realize you don't need to anymore. When you're finally allowed to land in your own bones and say, I'm here. A girl walks in with a violin case. Her boots are muddy, her cheeks wind-kissed, but her eyes carry something clear. She sets the case down and nods to the barista, who gestures toward the back corner. A moment later, the soft pull of strings fills the room, not loud, not polished, just real. The notes are slow, like sighs woven into sound. You close your eyes and let them settle into you. The music isn't trying to impress. It's not building toward anything. It's just there, existing, like breath on a cold window pane. And you think, what if we allowed our lives to be like that sometimes? Not a performance, not a race, just a soft offering of presence. A violin played for no one. A cup of tea for one. A story never finished, but deeply lived. The music carries you back to the barista, to the candle, to the clock that still has no hands. Time continues, yes, but not here, not now. Here, you're measured not in minutes, but in moments. And this one? It's worth staying in. You open your journal, or at least the one in your mind, and imagine writing down your own lesson from today. Something simple, something light. Patience is not waiting for something to arrive. It's learning to love what's already here. The violin draws to a close. A few patrons smile quietly. No one claps. It wouldn't feel right. Instead, the silence after is full, more than full. Sacred. Like the whole room exhaled in unison. You return to your seat, your heart slightly fuller, your breath slightly slower, and as you glance around, you feel it again, that gentle thread connecting everyone here. No names exchanged, no stories shared, just presence, just the unspoken agreement that this slowness, this stillness, this soft moment matters. You close your eyes for a beat. And in that beat, you're nowhere else. The next time you look up, you're not sure how long it's been. But that's the beauty of it. Time in this cafe doesn't pass, it settles. Like powdered sugar on a warm tart. Quietly, gently, lovingly. A new cup arrives without you asking. The barista simply places it before you with a slight nod, as if to say, you've earned this one. This tea is different, richer, earthier, with the scent of honey and wood smoke. It tastes like the warmth of a memory you almost forgot, the kind that only returns when you stop trying to find it. Outside, the mist has thickened into a quiet hush over the street. People pass, their figures softened and slightly blurred, like dreams walking in wool coats. You feel a sense of calm for them, even the ones hurrying by. Maybe they'll find their cafe someday, too. Maybe we all do. When we most need to remember who we are. You cradle your cup and think about the people who once sat in your chair. Not just today or this week, but years ago. Decades, even. All the versions of people who walked in with noise and left a little lighter. You wonder if that energy ever leaves. Or if the walls somehow remember every story, every sigh, every long stare out the window. Some say places like this are magic, but maybe they're just honest. Maybe they reflect the parts of you you've ignored, the parts that crave silence, softness, slowness, the parts that don't perform or achieve, but simply are. A couple near the window is playing chess. Not for competition. You can tell. More for rhythm. One moves apiece. Then they both sip their drinks in unison. The next move takes 5 minutes. Maybe more. But no one minds. There is no clock pressing on them. Just presence. You think about how much of life is spent preparing for the next thing. The next goal. The next milestone. The next after. But here, in this quiet cafe, there is no next. Only now. Only this exact moment, steeped in jasmine and honeyed breath. And you ask yourself, softly, what if you stop trying to get somewhere? What if being here is enough? You look down at your hands. Relaxed now, open. You hadn't noticed them unclench. Isn't it strange how tension sneaks in and takes root so silently that you forget you were holding your own hand in a fist? But the tea reminds you. The slowness teaches you to hold yourself more gently, to pause when you'd normally push, to listen not to answers, but to the space between them. There's a painting near the bookshelf you didn't see before. A quiet forest scene, watercolored and hazy, with a single figure sitting beneath a birch tree. Their face is turned upward, eyes closed, hands in their lap. You can't tell if they're waiting, resting, or praying. Maybe all three, maybe none. You stare at the figure and wonder, when was the last time you let yourself simply be still like that? Without trying to make it count? The barista, in passing, notices your gaze. He smiles and says softly, "That's one of my favorites." You ask him why. "Because the person isn't doing anything." He replies, "And that's everything." You sit with that. The person isn't doing anything. And that's everything. You sip again. The tea is cooling now, but still comforting, like the tail end of a hug, lingering just enough to remind you that warmth doesn't disappear, it simply changes form. Someone near the fireplace begins to hum. Not a song you know. It's wordless. A tune that feels like it was born in this very room. Meant only for this moment. It rises, floats, and blends with the rain outside, like two old friends catching up without saying a thing. You close your eyes and let the sound wash over you. You imagine the cafe not as a place, but as a person, an old friend who never judges your lateness, who always keeps a seat warm for you, who pours tea with steady hands and tells you, without words, you don't need to do more to be loved. And maybe that's the lesson wrapped gently into today. That rest isn't earned, it's needed. That stillness isn't laziness, it's wisdom. That the most courageous thing you can do in a rushing world is slow down. You wonder how long it would take to bring this quiet with you outside. Into the sharp edges of your inbox. The crowded intersections. The questions you don't have answers to yet. What if you approached them all like you do this cafe? With a gentle breath and the thought, I have time. I can listen. I am allowed to pause. The tea is nearly gone now. But you don't feel the usual pang of ending. Because nothing here really ends. It just flows. Like the rain outside. Like the violin from earlier. Like the flickering flame that's still dancing. Despite no one watching. You whisper a small thought to yourself. Perhaps a new mantra. Maybe the slow path is where I truly return to me. And in the hush that follows, you swear the cafe smiles back. It's the subtle shift of the room that tells you something has changed. Not dramatically, no doors slam, no voices rise, but like the soft settling of snow, a small group has gathered near the corner where the girl played violin earlier. They speak in hushed tones, their laughter muffled like it's wrapped in scarves. And you notice how even joy here has volume control. Like the cafe itself invites gentleness. You sink deeper into your seat, your spine curved in the most natural way. Not slouched, just released, like a leaf that finally stopped resisting the current. The air smells faintly of cinnamon now. Someone must have ordered a spiced cake, and there's a sweetness to it that doesn't rush to reach you. It waits, like everything here, for you to arrive at it. And you do, slowly. Your gaze drifts to the worn wooden floorboards. where hundreds of feet have walked, stood, wandered in hesitation and hope. You trace one of the darker knots in the grain and think, how many quiet decisions were made right here? How many gentle goodbyes, soft hellos, tiny moments of choosing to keep going? You imagine one of those knots as a small universe, a point where someone, maybe years ago, sat in this very spot and decided to forgive themselves. Not with fanfare, just a breath, a nod, a sip. Maybe that's the real sound of healing. The clink of a spoon against ceramic and the silent surrender of someone letting go. What if every quiet cafe like this is a museum of invisible courage? There's a mirror behind the counter, round and old, with a faint line running through the middle like a healed fracture. You see yourself in it, not perfectly. The image is a little warped, a little soft, but there's something beautiful about that. It feels truer somehow. You think about how rare it is to see yourself not in high-definition clarity, but in suggestion, just enough to say, yes, I am here, and maybe I'm okay. The barista has pulled out a stool and is tuning an old guitar. The notes are slow, exploratory, each one hanging in the air as if asking permission before it lands. You don't recognize the tune, but it wraps around you like a cardigan found at the back of a closet, forgotten, but still holding warmth. He doesn't perform, he just plays. For no one, for everyone, for himself. Maybe that's the purest kind of art. Some say beauty needs an audience, but maybe beauty just needs room to exist, quietly, where it's not trying to prove anything. Your eyes wander to a small notebook someone left behind. Its cover is creased, corners curled. You hesitate for a moment, then gently open it. Inside are short sentences, scattered like breadcrumbs. I thought I needed answers. Turns out, I needed stillness. Today I didn't do much, but I felt everything. One slow morning taught me more than 10 fast ones. You close it, smiling. You don't know whose words those are, but they echo something familiar. Like they were written by a version of you who stepped ahead in time just to whisper back, you're doing just fine. You return it exactly where it was. Not everything we touch needs to be taken. Some things are meant to be noticed, honored, and left to rest. From outside, the mist seems to press gently against the glass, as if wanting to come in and rest too. The world out there continues. You know, cars hum, clocks tick, inboxes fill, hearts ache. But in here, you're reminded of something softer. That life is not just the doing, it's the noticing. Like noticing how your heartbeat feels slower now, or how the sounds around you no longer compete. They coexist. The guitar, the rain, the quiet hum of a fridge. Even silence has a seat here. You think about how most days you chase clarity, as if answers will grant peace. But here, uncertainty doesn't feel threatening. It feels like fog, something you can walk through gently, trusting the path to reveal itself, one step at a time. And maybe that's the lesson tonight. You don't need to see the whole road. Just the next step, the next sip, the next breath. The fire in the corner crackles once, softly, like it agrees. You rest your hand on the table, feeling the grain of the wood beneath your palm. You press down slightly, not to mark it, but to feel it mark you. A reminder that presence, true presence, leaves an imprint, not always seen, but always felt. You close your eyes, and the world doesn't vanish, it just rearranges into something slower, kinder, more honest. And in that hush, you ask yourself, what if you lived more days like this? Not just in cafes, but in your own skin? The barista plucks a final note, letting it fade naturally, without conclusion, like a sentence that doesn't need punctuation, just space. You smile, and in the mirror's cracked reflection, the candle still flickers, you still breathe, and nothing needs to be different. You're not sure how it starts. Maybe it's the flicker of the candle. Maybe the rhythm of the rain shifting, but suddenly, something moves in you, not loud, not drastic, Just the gentle tug of a question you hadn't thought to ask. When did I last feel safe enough to exhale fully? And without even realizing it, you do. You exhale, slowly, deeply, like a tide pulling back after resting against the shore too long. There's a new presence in the room now. An elderly woman sits near the bookshelf, her fingers wrapped around a chipped blue mug. She's not reading, not speaking, just being. Her gaze isn't on anything in particular, more like she's watching a memory replay on the wall. You wonder what she's thinking. A lost love? A letter never sent? Or perhaps nothing at all? Just the feeling of warm porcelain and time folding in on itself. You sip your tea again. Though it's cooler now. Funny how even cooling things can comfort. Like a breeze at the end of a hot day. Or the hush after a storm. When everything's been washed clean. And the world doesn't rush to start again. You lean back and let your shoulders settle into the cushion. Letting your body tell you what it needs. Not your thoughts. And what it says, gently but clearly, is less. Less effort. Less noise. Less proving. Just less. Somewhere, someone chuckles lightly, not at a joke, but at a memory shared. Or maybe just the joy of being listened to. You don't see them, but the sound feels familiar. Not because you've heard it before, but because it reminds you of someone you miss. Maybe even a part of yourself. Isn't it strange how the simplest sounds can bring back entire seasons of your life? You remember an old afternoon, far away from this place, when someone once told you, it's okay to not have all the answers. You're allowed to be a question for a while. At the time, you nodded politely, but now, in this cafe that doesn't rush and doesn't demand, you understand what they meant. And it feels like peace. You watch the elderly woman rise. She leaves behind a note, folded once. Neat, like it matters. You resist the urge to peek. It wasn't meant for you. Some things, after all, are sacred in their mystery. You think about the people you pass every day. Faces that blur, voices you half hear. What if they're all carrying notes like that? Unread stories folded into their pockets. Waiting for a quiet place to open them? What if all of us are walking around with pages we're not ready to read yet? Outside, a bicycle rolls by slowly. Its rider isn't in a hurry. Their coat flaps slightly in the wind. And for a moment, you envy their gentle motion. That ability to glide. But then you realize, you're gliding too. Just in a different way. Internally, quietly. There's a book on the nearby shelf that catches your eye. Its spine is worn. The gold lettering faded. You pull it out carefully. Inside, instead of printed text, you find handwritten thoughts, some neat, some scribbled, all heartfelt. Today I remembered how to look up. I sat still long enough to hear my own heart. I forgave myself for being tired. Each page feels like a window. Not into someone else's world, but into your own. As if the words were written for you. But by a part of you that you left behind long ago. You close the book gently and return it. You don't need to take it home. Its gift has already been given. A soft creak announces the barista approaching again. This time with a thin wool blanket. Chilly? He asks, but not in a way that expects an answer. He lays it across the back of your chair anyway and nods. That's the kind of kindness you didn't realize you were starving for. The kind that doesn't ask, doesn't fix, just offers. And you wonder, what would the world feel like if more people offered softness before solutions? Maybe not everything broken needs repair. Maybe some things just need warmth. The fire crackles again. You catch a scent of orange peel and cloves. It must be from another cup steeping nearby. And just like that, the moment deepens, richer, thicker, like honey stirred into warm milk. A small, comforting magic. You close your eyes for just a second and hear only your breath. No to-do list, no pending conversations, just the inhale and the exhale. It's the kind of silence that doesn't ask questions, it answers them. You feel your heart slow. Not because something is wrong, but because something is right. And in that quiet rhythm, you remember. You are allowed to rest. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Maybe the truth doesn't arrive in big moments, but in small sips. Maybe this cafe is not just a place, but a practice of slowing down, of letting things be unfinished, unpolished, and still beautiful. You smile softly, eyes still closed, and whisper inwardly, I didn't know how much I needed this. And the cafe, in its own way, replies, you always did, you just forgot for a little while. The window fogs slightly from the inside now, moisture gathering in tender patterns. As if even the glass wants to slow down and breathe. You draw a little swirl on it with your fingertip, not because it means anything, but simply because your hand wanted to move gently through something. It's funny how much of life feels loud, like every action needs purpose or proof. But here, even idle gestures feel sacred. Your swirl fades as your warmth leaves the glass. And that's okay. Not everything needs to last. Some things are beautiful precisely because they don't. The guitar has long since gone quiet, but in its place there's the soft sound of a broom brushing against the old floorboards. Rhythmic, steady, like someone gently sweeping away what no longer belongs. You watch the barista move with care, not rushing the dust, not forcing the bristles, just letting the floor speak, and listening through motion. You think about how much of your own life you've spent rushing toward things. Toward answers, toward destinations, toward being enough. But tonight, here, surrounded by fading notes and slow footsteps, you wonder, what if everything you've been seeking was never ahead of you, but all around you, waiting for you to be still enough to feel it? You glance at the counter where the tea was brewed, and the kettle still lets off soft steam. Not enough to call attention to itself. Just enough to say, I'm still here, still warm, still ready when you are. The elderly woman's seat is now empty. But in its place, someone new sits, a young man. Possibly a traveler. His backpack is set gently at his feet. Not tossed, not abandoned. You catch his eyes for a moment and nod. He nods back, nothing more. But in that split second, something passes between you, an understanding that needs no words. A quiet solidarity in the shared practice of waiting. You wonder what he's waiting for. A letter? A sign? A pause long enough to feel himself again? The cafe holds all these waiting hearts without judgment. A whisper of laughter brushes across the room from another table. Not disrupted, more like a sigh that got tickled. You smile. It reminds you of your grandmother's laugh. Soft and slightly wheezy, the kind that warmed you from the inside out like toast on a gray morning. That memory pulls something in you, tenderness, maybe, or ache, or both. You let yourself feel it, fully. No need to push it away or bury it in productivity. Here, emotions aren't threats, they're guests. You invite them in, let them sit beside you, maybe even offer them a sip of your tea. Some say healing is a journey forward, but maybe it's a return. To places like this, to feelings you once paused, to the person you were before you got too tired to notice your own heartbeat. A small chalkboard behind the counter catches your eye. It's covered in smudges, but one quote stands clear. Patience isn't waiting, it's how you wait. You feel that one deep in your chest. Patience, not as endurance, not as gritted teeth, but as grace, as softness toward the unknown, as trust that even when nothing appears to change, something gentle might still be unfolding beneath the surface. You think of all the times you planted something in your life, an idea, a hope, a kindness, and judged it too soon. Maybe it needed more time. Or maybe you were growing right alongside it and didn't notice. Like this cafe, you didn't come here for answers. But now answers have quietly found you. In steam, in silence, in strangers who speak with nods instead of words. Your cup is almost empty now. But you don't rush to finish. Even the last sip deserves your full attention. What if that's how you approached life? Not racing to the end of things. Not gulping down joy before it evaporates. But sipping slowly, letting every flavor arrive in its own time. You lift the cup, taste the final bit, it's cooler now, and somehow that makes it more honest. Less performative, more itself. The barista wipes the counter nearby. He glances over and says softly, "Still good?" You nod. "More than good." He smiles, not like someone proud of a job well done, but like someone simply glad you're okay. Some say kindness is grand gestures, but maybe it's noticing when someone's cup is empty and not needing a reason to offer a refill. The rain outside lightens, turning to a hush of mist that the street lamp catches like glitter in the air. For a moment, it feels like the world is sparkling just for you. You stretch slightly, your body thanking you for how gently you've treated it tonight. No rush, no demands, just presence. You think about returning here again, not just the cafe, but this version of yourself. The quieter you, the kinder you, the one who doesn't need to earn rest. And maybe the cafe is always with you. Maybe every time you breathe slower, every time you choose silence over reaction, or kindness over critique, maybe that's the cafe too. It's not a place, it's a way. You reach for the folded blanket draped on your chair, brushing it lightly, not to wrap yourself in it, but as a small thank you for its silent offering. Then, with a long breath, you simply sit. You don't check the time. You don't plan what comes next. You just exist, fully, softly, gratefully, and the cafe continues, with or without you, because the story was never about changing the world. It was always about changing the way you see it. One breath, one sip, one slow, golden night at a time. The night drapes itself more completely now, like a velvet curtain falling in slow motion. Outside, the last hints of sunset have dissolved into a silvery blue, and inside the cafe, the light seems to soften on purpose, as if even the bulbs know to whisper. You sit quietly, wrapped not in a blanket, but in a feeling, a rare, full-bodied stillness that doesn't press or pinch. It simply holds you, like a friend who understands without needing you to explain. The quiet around you is a gentle paradox. It's not the absence of sound, but the presence of calm, like the hush of snowfall, or the way an empty concert hall hums just before a note is played. There's something sacred in the pause, something healing in the fact that no one here needs to rush to fill it. You think about the noise you carry every day, the headlines, the alerts, the little red numbers on your phone, pulsing like anxious heartbeats. But tonight, in this cafe that asks nothing from you, that noise can't find you. It's not that it's gone. It's just irrelevant. You notice a girl at a nearby table, maybe 12 years old, maybe younger, sketching in a notebook. Her brow is furrowed in focus, but not the kind that strains, the kind that belongs. Every few strokes, she lifts her pencil and studies the page with the curiosity of someone meeting themselves for the first time. You wonder what she's drawing. A dream? A memory? Or perhaps a future that doesn't yet have words? Her presence reminds you of a truth you've tucked away. You were once that child. 2. Lost in wonder. Focused not on being impressive, but being immersed. Back when doing something well meant loving it deeply, not perfecting it endlessly. A faint melody returns to the air. The guitar again. Different this time, slower, more open, like a lullaby played for grown-up hearts. You close your eyes and let it wrap around you like a scarf knit from old hopes. And just like that, a memory visits. You're back in a childhood room, lying on your side as rain taps at the window. Someone's humming, maybe your mother, maybe a song from an old cassette. You're not sure, but you remember the feeling. Safe, weightless, and entirely unburdened by the future. You smile, because somehow, without realizing it, this cafe has returned you to that moment, not in time, but in essence. And you wonder, what if growing up didn't mean leaving that behind? but learning how to return to it with intention. Some say adulthood is the death of wonder. But maybe it's the rebirth of it. Slower, quieter, deeper. You sip from your cup again, though you're sure it's empty by now. Still, the ritual is comforting. The warm ceramic in your hands. The imaginary promise of more. The barista catches your eye again. This time, he simply gives a nod, as if to say, "You're doing just fine." You return the gesture. Words would be too loud. You notice a new note added to the community chalkboard, written in pale blue chalk. It reads, "I didn't come here to be fixed. I came here to remember I wasn't broken." It lands in you like rain on dry soil. For all the self-help quotes and motivational speeches and plans and goals, you've been chasing wholeness as if it were something you had to earn. But maybe the cafe is trying to tell you something else entirely. You were always whole, just tired. You look down at your hands. The ones that have held burdens no one else could see. The ones that have typed late into nights. Opened too many doors, closed too few. You notice the lines, the calluses, the softness in between. And quietly, you thank them, not for being strong, but for staying open. A breeze stirs from under the door. It carries the scent of something sweet, perhaps cinnamon, or a passing thought. You inhale deeply and feel it settle behind your ribs like a note you forgot you could sing. The young artist nearby sets down her pencil and leans back. She studies her work with an expression that's neither pride nor critique, just appreciation. Then, slowly, she tears out the page and walks to the barista, offering it silently. He takes it, smiles, and clips it onto a string of drawings above the counter, each one dancing gently in the warm draft from the espresso machine. You follow the movement of the pages, and it occurs to you that art, like peace, doesn't need explanation. It just needs space. Maybe that's what this cafe is. A place that offers space. Space to pause without guilt, to feel without filtering, to be without performing. You rise slowly from your chair and stretch, not out of restlessness, but reverence. Your body responds with gratitude, as if to say, "Thank you for listening." You walk toward the window, where the fog has mostly cleared, and press your palm gently to the glass. You don't leave a print, just a memory, one the window will carry until morning. Someone opens the cafe door briefly, and cool air rolls in like a sigh. Then it's gone again, replaced by warmth and flickering light. You wonder, if we all had one place in our lives like this, just one, how much softer would we become? How much less armor would we need? And maybe, how much more would we love? You don't have the answers. But you know this. Something inside you has quieted. And that quiet feels like truth. So you return to your seat. Fold your hands in your lap. And let the next note of the guitar carry you deeper into stillness. The music fades again, not with finality, but with tenderness, a lingering note, barely there, like the sound a dream makes before it dissolves. You listen, not to the melody, but to its absence. It leaves a kind of hush in the room, the kind that asks nothing from you except presence. Outside, the mist has thickened. Streetlights now look like halos blurred by memory. Each car that passes is softer, as though even the city has agreed to whisper tonight. The cafe has thinned out. Some chairs remain occupied, but with people who seem tethered not by urgency, but by choice. The girl who drew earlier has left, but her picture still hangs, a simple sketch of a heart surrounded by tiny stars. You wonder if she even knew what she was drawing, or if it was simply what her spirit whispered through pencil strokes. You used to draw, too. You remember, not for anyone else, not to prove anything, just to move your hands in rhythm with your heart. You think of all the things you once did like that, singing under your breath, dancing while folding laundry, humming just to feel the vibration in your chest. And you ask yourself gently, when did I begin to require a reason for every joy? A life lesson drifts in, uninvited but welcome. like a breeze through a cracked window. Sometimes the most meaningful parts of life are the ones that ask for no validation. They simply are. Like this cafe. Like tonight. Like you. When you forget to be anything but human. The barista begins extinguishing the candles on the outer tables. One by one. Not abruptly. Each flame gets a pause. A breath. Before it's gently lowered into darkness. You imagine he names them silently as he goes. The tall one. The flickery one. The one that burned brighter when she laughed. You sip your tea, no longer warm, but still fragrant, and let yourself drift between thoughts and dreams. The edges of your awareness blur. The way a painting softens when you step back. Someone passes behind you on the way out, and you hear them murmur, "See you again," to the air, not to anyone in particular, just to the moment, as if promising themselves not to forget how this felt. You wonder if you'll return too, not necessarily to this cafe, but to this version of you, quieter, more forgiving, slower to interrupt your own heart. Maybe you already are returning. The chalkboard now carries another new line. You squint to read it. Your softness is not a flaw. It's a door. It catches something inside you, something long unopened. A door, not to escape, but to enter, deeper, truer, inward. The lights dim a little more. A signal, perhaps. The night is wrapping you up gently. And in this pause between full wakefulness and drowsy dreaming, you allow yourself a final reflection. You didn't come here tonight with a plan. And maybe that's the lesson. What if the best journeys aren't mapped? What if they begin with tea and stillness, and end with the rediscovery of your own quiet courage? There's a kind of homecoming happening. Even as your physical surroundings stay the same, you feel the shift inside. Lighter, not in the sense of giddy happiness, but in the way that burdens become more carryable when seen in soft light. A man from earlier, the traveler with the backpack, stands to leave. He meets your gaze and gives a faint, respectful nod. The kind exchanged between pilgrims who've walked different paths but shared the same moonlight. You return it. The barista wipes down the last counter. The broom is leaned gently in a corner like a sleeping instrument. The steam has quieted. The hum of the fridge fades. Only the sound of your breath remains, steady, present. Here, you rise, not rushed. Your body feels like silk and sand and candlelight. A gentle weight, perfectly calibrated for sleep. You stretch once more, then walk to the door. As you leave, you place your hand on the frame, not to push, but to thank. Thank this place, this moment, this version of you. The door opens without a creak. The outside air meets you like an old friend. Cool, inviting, ready to carry you home. And before we drift into the final rest of the evening, let's take a few last moments to wind down together. The cafe now lives behind your eyelids, a glowing memory tucked somewhere near your heartbeat. You lie in bed, still breathing slow, still holding the softness of that last warm sip in your chest. The world around you, wherever you are, has dimmed its voice. You're safe here, safe to unwind, safe to feel, safe to be still. Let the images flicker gently through your thoughts, the twinkle of string lights above mismatched chairs, the soft thrum of a half-forgotten song, the hush of shared silence between two strangers who said everything without words. In this quiet space between wakefulness and dreams, remember that your pace is your own. That life, like tea, does not need to boil to be enough. It only needs time to steep. And you, dear heart, are steeping beautifully. Let go of today now. Its edges are soft. Its echoes are fading. Let the pillows catch your thoughts like clouds. And let sleep carry you not away, but inward. You are not running anymore. You are arriving. One breath, one pause, one night at a time. Thank you for letting me walk beside you tonight.